Hey, I'm Delise.
And I'm Jenny.
We know that parenting comes in seasons, and even the smallest wins deserve a happy dance.
Join us as we chat with moms in every stage of the parenting journey, fixing our eyes on Jesus each step of the way.
This is Blessings and Motherhood, because we believe that you can hold tissues and confetti at the same time. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Blessings and Motherhood. If you've seen the title of this one, you know that we've got some pretty big announcements, and it is definitely going to be one where you'll want to stick around till the end. What we're going to do in this episode is talk a little bit about the past episodes that we've had and some of our highlights and things that if you missed it, we'd love for you to go back and listen to. And then Jenny has an announcement and we'll tell you what to expect moving forward. So let's jump in and talk about some of our favorite episodes.
Well, one of the first episodes that comes to mind is one of our most recent ones, though, but it's when we got to sit down with Jennifer Courtney and talk about the history of education. As a homeschooling mom myself, I really just enjoyed her perspective on the history and where it came from and kind of where we are today even. Really insightful and helping me think through how I am educating my children, where I want to go with that education. And again, just knowing the history of something is really important in these days.
Yeah, that's a really great episode. And Jennifer Courtney is our chief academic officer. And so she's behind a lot of the curriculum that we have released and are going to release in the future. And so really hearing her heart and the perspective and even just the context that's considered when they write classical conversations curriculum was really cool and encouraging. Another one of my favorite recent episodes was actually Will Homeschooling Ruin My Relationship with My Child with Emily Phillip. In that episode, she talks about some really cool tips and tricks actually for how she makes homeschooling fun and engaging for her kids, but she also just dives straight into that question. And I found it very thought-provoking. And so definitely want to encourage you guys to go listen to that one.
Yeah, what I really enjoyed about that one as well is, as a homeschooling mom, I get all of these questions still all the time. Yeah. How are you going to socialize your kids? Oh, you're going to ruin your relationship with your kids. Don't you fight with your kids all the time? All of these questions come bombarded at me. And it was just really refreshing to hear her perspective and how she just kind of tackles that with other moms, and super encouraging to hear. And I do follow her on social media, and that is a great platform to share things. So if you guys want to go back and listen to that episode, she does give a lot of practical advice. Some of the things she literally uses in her homeschool room. I know one of my favorite things is her dip bar. It reminds me of gymnastics, and one of the things that the men do in their gymnastics, and her kids just play on it. And that is what my kids need. And that is what kids should do as they learn. They shouldn't have to sit still in a desk or anything. They should be able to move while they're reciting their times tables, things like that. So definitely a great episode to go check out. Another one that I just had, or another episode that I had a blast recording, was with Jill Philbrook, talking about moms and mental health. And I know I have lately been in a season of just overwhelm myself, thinking through, with number 5 on the way, how am I going to be a mom to 4 and now 5 and a wife and a sister and a child myself and a friend? And literally the other day, I just cried to myself. My kids looked at me like, "What is wrong, Mommy?" And I said, "Mommy's just having a moment." And I reflected back on that episode and just reminding myself that it's okay. And it also reminded me to seek out my community. And that's exactly what I did. I texted a friend. Honestly, I texted a friend I don't often text regarding these things because we're not necessarily the closest. I wasn't even expecting like a text back that day, and she did. I mean, within 15 minutes, this friend texted back with just such encouragement and said, "Let's get together when I'm back in town, and let's just go out, and you can cry and you can scream and you can do what you need to do, Jenny." But again, just that reminder of community with being a mom especially was really key.
Yeah, absolutely. Community is everything. And just listening to you talk about what it's like to be a mom and navigating those different seasons, it does make me think of the Michelle Oliver episode about creating family rhythms. That was another one of my absolute favorites. And what what I think about a lot in that episode is actually the way that she prays for her kids. She mentions that she and her husband, they have a lot of children who are grown now, and they would even come into their kids' bedrooms in the middle of the night and just pray for them in really
Mm.
hard seasons. And so she really challenged me in that episode to take things to the Lord and to be kind of proactive in the way that I take things to the Lord, not just waiting for there to be a problem, but to just pray over my son and to ask the Lord for the things that I believe he has in store for
Mm.
him. So that is a great one for you guys to go check out as well. All right, you guys, it's that time of year again. National Commencement is right around the corner. Mark your calendars for the 2025 National Commencement. It's going to be May 16th through the 17th, 2025 in sunny Southern Pines, North Carolina. Presented by the Classical Conversations Foundation, this is a time for CC families around the nation to celebrate together with fellow families on the homeschooling journey. Plus, there's going to be so much more on the agenda, including a welcome celebration for the graduates and their families, a Q&A time with Lee and Robert, and the 2025 National Memory Master Championship. So if you have a student who's going to graduate in 2025, begin planning to join us in North Carolina for the National Commencement Weekend. Again, those dates are May 16th through 17th, 2025. Registration is open now, so you can learn more at classicalconversationsfoundation.org. We hope to see you there.
And another episode that's really sticking out in my mind right now because of where me and my kids are in our homeschooling journey is the episode with Kirsty Gilpin. I think it was entitled Seeing God in Math back in the spring. Me and my kids are doing the program with the math map right now and absolutely loving it. And I really enjoyed her perspective on how we can see God in math and how, we don't need to be scared of it, that he's there. And it just thinking of math and learning math in a different way. And it's a little bit scary. And we did decide as a family to take that leap this year and we're not doing any other curriculums. We're going to stick with the math map and we're going to see it through. And it has been an amazing blessing to see my kids enjoy it, struggle with it. They are definitely holding tissues and confetti while they are doing their math maps. Even I am. But to see what's happening just within our family and within our math knowledge has been fun.
I cannot wait to get into it. I mean, I've said that to you guys before, and you said something actually just before we were recording about the fact that you are resting in the repetition and just trusting the process. Will you share that with them?
Yeah. So, I, of course, do some of the social media here and I read a lot of comments about what people say. And it was really just starting to get to me hearing some of the negative comments just regarding that, as in, oh, this is too hard. Why would they release something with not all of the information? And I'll be honest, I was scared to really commit to it at first too. I said, maybe we'll do math map with something else on top of it. But then in August, I said, you know what? With baby number 5 coming, I'm not going to put more. We're just going to do this one thing and trust. And to be honest, the first few weeks were really hard learning the system. The kids love looking at the artwork at the beginning of the week together and talking about it. And of course, my oldest is 9, so we're not going into deep theological conversations like maybe some of the challenge levels are, but they're looking at this artwork and thinking through how can they see math everywhere. So that's been encouraging. But then the repetition of how the different pages every day are set up, there's 4 different pages you're supposed to do a day. And the way we do it, we do the 4. And then the next day, the next 4, they're similar, very similar, different numbers and such like that. And at first my kids struggled. They said, Mommy, this is too hard. We don't understand it. And what I had to kind of go to the heart of it. What don't they understand? What is this issue? Why are they crying through this? Honestly, to be honest with you guys. And we talked about it. And I sat there and just watched them, did it with them. And it was just because they didn't know the grammar of it. Honestly, it goes back to the reason we classically educate. We've got to learn the grammar before we can understand. And we need to be okay with sitting in this grammar learning stage. Because I think too, as adults, sometimes when we look at it, it's like, oh, we got to learn this. We got to know how to do this. I have to know how to do this before I teach my children. And I found that it is so beautiful to be able to sit in something with my children to say, yeah, babe, I don't know what a factorial is, but we're going to write this down. I have the answer sheet. This is what we're supposed to write down. Let's figure this out together. And my kids were like, oh, you don't know? We thought you knew, Mom. And I said, Mommy hasn't done this in years. Honestly, Mommy didn't do this till high school. And you're 8 years old doing this. But you know what? We're going to be okay with just saying out this equation. And that's even what my little 6-year-old Colby is doing. She's writing out these equations, and she doesn't know how to do it. She has no clue what she's saying, but she can read things like the limit of x of f times g of x as x approaches 4. And I mean, my mind is blown. She knows all of the symbols. She knows what they mean, because that's all we really focus on right now. And I had to be okay as a mom putting down what I went through in my math career growing up, putting down what the world was telling me my children should know at their age, and just saying, this is classical education, and we're getting back to that. And we're going to learn the grammar. And if all we get this year is how to read these symbols and do our flashcards, because my flashcards came in, I was one that was very late to the bookstore getting my flashcards, and I had to wait. But it's fun. And as soon as we learn how to say it, I know we're going to learn how to do it later.
Absolutely.
I'm not worried about it. And I think that's, as a parent, where we need to set our mind with math in general, whether you are doing the math map or a different program. It's all about your mindset in something.
Yeah, and trusting the process. And this is the classical method. Grammar is first. I love that you pointed out the fact that sometimes we want to skip ahead, and that's why we're feeling so frustrated, because we think that we can just spend 2 seconds in the grammar stage and have it. And frankly, it's repetition that builds that knowledge. And so I'm excited to see, especially with Colby, because she's starting at such a base level, and where she goes in 5 years, and just her understanding of math and how she even talks about it. And when you were talking about just learning with your children, you made me think of the Lee episode that we did. And she actually unpacks more about what it means to learn alongside your children. If you don't know who Lee is, Lee Bortons is the founder of the company that produces this podcast, Classical Conversations. And so much of her work has been devoted to teaching and empowering parents to classically educate their children. And I love the heart that she shared in that episode. Is a very unique conversation with her. So I would definitely encourage you guys to go check that one out too.
Yeah. And another episode that comes to mind is with Camilla Carter, talking about emotions and big emotions with our kids, big emotions as parents ourselves. I think that was another fun one to record. I think we laughed more in that one maybe than any other one, just because of her personality, but also because when you talk about kids and emotions, sometimes you just have to laugh at it. You know, it can be serious, and yes, we need to take it seriously. Sometimes you just got to laugh.
Absolutely. And she dropped some wisdom. I brought up this week her suitcase issue analogy again with my husband. He was like, that is brilliant. And I just had to give her credit for it, because it's not my thing. So definitely go and listen to that if you need some help navigating emotions. Speaking of emotions, I have a lot of emotions today, because this is our last for now episode with Jenny. Jenny has a new season coming up. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah. So as you guys know, we are pregnant with number 5, and we found out way back last May. And we've just been processing this new season of life. You guys have probably heard me over the last few months in different episodes talk about the hard season I've been in. And it has been hard. Not only is this pregnancy different, as a lot of you moms know, every pregnancy you feel a different way. Your body does different things. Your kids react differently. Over the summer and the last little while, the Lord really just revealed to me that I needed to take a step back and be home with my family. And I'm going to start crying now because all these pregnancy hormones. But It was a really hard decision because I love my job with CC. I love being on this podcast. I love the conversations that we have not only in this studio, but the conversations that we're having with you guys over on Instagram and Facebook and the platforms that we've just been able to kind of hang out with you guys with. And it was really hard for me to grasp that God was telling me you need to be home in this season. But man, guys, when you just give it to him and call on his name and rely on him, he just makes it so clear sometimes. And I get that doesn't happen every time. And I specifically prayed for him to make it clear because this was a really hard decision for me, to step away, to know that I just need to be home with my kids. But man, he made it very evident. Even my kids' emotions and their feelings, seeing that they need me around more. And I feel very blessed and just really grateful that my husband was so supportive in that decision to just kind of be behind me and say, if that is what you need to do, I am here. And he even felt the same calling, which is another just nod from God that, I'm even telling David this right now, that this is where you guys need to be. So yes, I'm going to be transitioning to just really focusing in on my kids, focusing in on bringing our little boy into the mix. We're so excited. We just found out, was it last week, that we're having another little boy. And the kids are so excited. And I'll share this. I don't know if you want to take this out or not, but when I had to call Delise the day that I thought about this decision for I feel like it was a long time, but I was praying through it hardcore. David was praying through it with me. And when I told David, I said, I'm going to talk to Delise next week. And I had that conversation and we had that. We did all the things we need to do. And then that night at dinner at the table, I just shared with my kids, Mommy put in my notice. I'm going to be finishing up the podcast. Guys, this is nothing bad about the podcast, but they cheered for joy. And I know that, I don't know how that sounds, but it was another reminder that this is where I need to be right now. But I'm going to miss it. But I'm definitely going to be listening in and still sharing with everybody what's going on over here.
Yeah. And we're going to miss you. But, my mother-in-law and I were talking about seasons the other day and how what we see in nature is that when it's spring, we just cross over the fall line. I know you guys are listening to this in December, but when a season changes, it usually changes before you think it's going to change. But that's the way God does it. The world does it where it's like everything's overdue and things go sour and you're like, yeah, we got to stop. But God makes a shift when it's time, and his timing is perfect. And a lot of the time that shift is smoother because he goes ahead and says, okay, now it's time to usher in spring. So let's start harvesting. Even though you're still getting things, just start harvesting because it's time. And that actually produces more fruit. And so I'm proud of you. Yeah. I am. I've told you that so many times. So that's not for the podcast, but I'll say it, for all of posterity, that I'm proud of you and I'm thankful. And I've been so humbled to serve with you in this way. And I pray that the conversations that we've had here have been encouraging to you guys. That's the reason why we wanted to reflect in this episode, because we really believe that these conversations have the potential to change things for moms and to encourage moms. And by changing things for moms, we can change the next generation. And that's something that only God can do. And so it's been an honor to walk through this with you.
Yeah. And I think even if we don't see the change or whatnot, to plant a seed or to help you guys have conversations with other moms around you, if that's all that these conversations did, then that's what it's all about. Because again, having conversation in general is just so important. It helps you get your ideas out there and it helps you think through what you really believe about something. So we hope that these conversations that we've had over here have done that for you, that they've helped you think, whether you agree maybe or not, and maybe talk to another friend or another parent about that issue as well.
Absolutely. So, speaking of conversations, there's one last thing we need to address. I'm sure you're all thinking, okay, so is the podcast over? And the answer is no. Some things are going to shift in the coming months. And so, we can't wait to tell you more about the plans that we have in store. So, come back just like you normally would 2 weeks from now, and we'll have another show and we will talk about all of the things that are going to be happening here on Blessings and Motherhood and in Classical Conversations. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for holding tissues and confetti at the same time with us. We'll talk to you later.
Bye, guys.